A burning engine, a dead radio, a cold sea. June 24th, 1944. Flight Lieutenant David Ernest "Pop" Hornell sits at the controls of his Catalina flying boat. Through the mist and gray skies of the Norwegian Sea, he sees the shadow of an enemy rising from the waves. It's a U-boat, armed and waiting. Hornell presses the alarm. His crew braces. What follows is a fight to the death, one they would win. But the ocean had its own plans. This is the story of the men who brought down U-1225, and then faced something even more deadly, the sea itself. By the summer of 1944, the Allied grip on the Atlantic was tightening. U-boats that once hunted convoys freely were being driven back towards their bases along the Norwegian coast. But the threat was still there. Every supply line, food, oil, weapons depended on hunters like Hornell and his crew, flying long patrols from Rafwick in Scotland. The men of No. 162 Squadron RCAF knew their odds. The Catalina, called the Canso in Canadian service, was slow and vulnerable, armed with depth charges, light defensive guns, and fuel for vast distances. It was still the best tool for finding and destroying submarines. But after an attack, there was rarely a clean escape. Hornell's story isn't only about hitting an enemy. It shows what happens when victory still leaves you stranded, freezing, and alone. This is a minute-by-minute account of the day when U-boat hunters were claimed by the cold sea. Contact and attack run. Late afternoon, the lookout spots a shape off the port side. Through shifting waves, a submarine appears. U-1225, a long-range Type 9 boat. Hornell doesn't hesitate. He turns the Catalina towards it. Below, Oberleutnant Xerxes Ernst Sauerberg reacts at once. U-1225 starts an evasive turn while the crew runs to their guns. Tracers rise into the sky from 20mm cannons and a 37mm flak gun. The Catalina shudders. Holes rip through its skin. In the radio bay, Sidney Cole tries to send a distress call. Shrapnel tears into the compartment, wounding him and wrecking the gear. He keeps tapping, not knowing no message is getting out. At the nose, the gunner fires twin Brownings at the conning tower. German gunners fall, but a jam silences one of the Catalina's guns. Sauerberg's men rush back to their weapons, and a second wall of tracers climbs to meet the incoming aircraft. Damage piles up. A burst rips away parts of the right wing. The starboard engine flares, fed by leaking fuel. The second pilot feathers the prop, but fire still streams back across the wing. Hornell holds his line. The submarine twists again, trying to slip away. At the last instant, he corrects, releases 4 depth charges, and brackets the target. The blasts tear into U-1225. It sinks with all hands. West of Bergen, the crew cheer, but only for a moment. The Catalina is crippled and on fire. There's nowhere left to go but down, ditching and first minutes afloat. Hornell knows they won't make land. He prepares for a water landing. The wind is brutal. The waves are high. The Catalina slams into the first swell, bounces back into the air, and hits again even harder. After punching through several more waves, the flying boat grinds to a halt. Fire licks at the wing. Hornell orders evacuation. Engineers Donald Scott and Fernand Laurent inflate the dinghies from the blister positions. Men drop into the freezing water to push the lifeboats clear. Cole, wounded but focused, grabs the survival rations and climbs aboard. For a brief moment, they have 2 rafts. Then Laurent's separate dinghy fails, whether a seam or a bottle. It doesn't matter now. Men are thrown back into the sea. They scramble into a single overloaded boat and start bailing with a helmet. The worst news settles in. The radio is gone, and those calls never went out. No one knows they are here. The long, cold hours. In these waters, The cold doesn't bargain. Hornell understands this and sets a rotation, some men in the boat, others in the water to buy time. He takes the longest turns in the sea himself. 3 aircraft appear across the hours. Flares go up. The first is missed. The second draws. No response. The third is finally seen. A circling Catalina flashes signals. A high-speed rescue launch is on the way. It even confirms the U-boat is gone. Spirits lift Dot, then a huge wave flips the dinghy. The men scatter. Hornell counts heads. Everyone is still alive. They heave the boat upright, climb back in, and cling to it as it rides lower and lower. The cold takes its first life. Laurent drifts into delirium. His shipmates try to keep him awake, keep him talking, but he slips away. With heavy hearts, they give their friend to the sea. Above, the circling Catalina stays as long as it dares. Radios their position, then turns for home low on fuel. Night gathers. The men are alone again, drifting in darkness. 21 hours pass, in a blur of wind, salt, and pain, rescue attempts, and final push. A bomber appears and releases a wooden lifeboat. It looks like salvation, but the wind carries it far downwind, half a kilometer away. Hornell tries to swim for it, nearly blind from salt, but the others hold him back. The sea would take him first. At last, help punches through the storm. From the Shetland Islands, RAF high-speed launch, 2,507 fights the gray water, guided by aircraft. The crew sweep the waves and find the survivors. Frozen hands reach for ropes and nets. One by one, the Catalina crew are brought aboard. Medics get to work. They work on Hornell for 4 hours. He gave everything he had to keep his men alive. He sees them lifted to safety and manages a faint smile. Then he lets go. Aftermath and legacy. 8 men took off in Hornell's aircraft. 5 survived. 2 died during the ordeal. Hornell himself did not return, for leading the attack under savage fire, and for the choices that kept his men alive through the longest night of their lives. Flight. Lieutenant David Ernest Hornell was awarded the Victoria Cross posthumously. His crew never forgot him. Second pilot Bernard Denomy would later say, "Outstanding about Flight Lieutenant Hornell was his ability to fly such a badly damaged aircraft, especially in the face of strong enemy fire. His courage marked him as a great man. Words cannot do justice. His name lives on in memorials across Canada and in the Shetlands. The story endures not only as a record of wartime skill, but as a lesson in endurance, sacrifice, and the will to protect others no matter the cost. They destroyed their enemy. Then they faced the greater one, the North Atlantic. They survived, not through luck, but through discipline, teamwork, and a leader who gave more than he asked. Courage isn't only in the attack. It's in the hours after, when there is nothing left to fight with but faith, endurance, and each other. Which moment struck you the most, the attack run, or the long hours adrift? If you value untold stories of airmen and sailors who faced impossible odds, like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Nexus for more carefully told cinematic history.